Welcome to the Living with Wildfire Forum, everybody. Normally I would say thank you for having me, but I think you should take a second and thank yourselves for being here today. All right, so I have now 9 minutes and 10 seconds to tell you about the scariest 3.5 hours of my life. And I have a doctoral degree in physiology. I know a few things about neurons in the brain, and I will add that little flavor to my story here because you've heard probably seen at least one, if not all three of the great productions that are out there that tell various stories of the campfire. When my family watches those, they say, wait, is that what you went through? And I say, yeah, it is in some ways what I went through. So I'm gonna just give you a very quick tour. And the purpose of this is not for me to relive it, because I certainly don't need to do that. My hope is that by sharing my story, I can help some of you feel a little more prepared. And as I'll talk about, to help your brains be more prepared, which your brain is different than you. We can talk about that later if you want. So the night before the campfire, California had been in 7 years of drought. You guys were very familiar with the Tubbs fire. The Carr fire in Redding had happened in July. Very high winds. We were getting warnings from PG&E that because of high winds, our power might be shut out. And I actually ended up having nightmares all night that there was fire around me. And I remember waking up thinking, if there's a fire anywhere in the vicinity, I'm out of here, I'm not waiting. And I don't think it was unique or fortuitous that I'd had those dreams. It just was a coincidence because of all these other triggers that set that off in my neurons. But why I bring it up is because I woke up at 7 a.m. and I checked the CAL FIRE Twitter feed. The only reason I joined Twitter was actually to follow CAL FIRE and because of fires. And sure enough, there was this fire there, and you can see it, that little yellow blip in the right there. And that green house in Paradise on the map is where we were located. That's where I was living at the time. So I wanted to show you this and then tell you that I saw that feed. The fire had started the post was at 6:51 a.m. I'm a logical, educated person, and I thought to myself, wait, I said I was gonna leave. If there was a fire anywhere near me, it's very windy, let's get out of here. And so I like to introduce this slide right here. And if we were in a crowd, I would have you tell your neighbor what you see for each of those situations, A, B, and C. And so maybe you can do that with somebody you're at a watch party with, or your neighbor or your dog, or if you have a dinosaur. I have the cameras are so weird. I have a dinosaur. I would tell my dinosaur. Maybe you don't have a dinosaur. What do you see in each of these three cases? And I'll just pick on C because it's one of my favorites. You're probably either saying a duck or a rabbit, right? A duck or a rabbit, yeah. So the point is that our brain is trained to either see what we want to see, what we're afraid to see, or what we think we see, what we're used to seeing. And that's called the fallibility of perception. And so when I looked at that fire, I said, well, we kayak up in the Feather River Canyon. That's a 40-minute drive. Maybe I know it's around the corner. Maybe it's more like 10 miles. We've mapped it since then. It's 7.8 miles away. But my experience with fire is if it's 10 miles away, you have some time to think about it. And so that's what we did. And my husband and I thought about it. We don't leave. 41 minutes later, we go outside and you can see this cloud, and you're probably all thinking that looks like a fire cloud. But I'm thinking, no, that looks like a cloud. It's a beautiful sunrise. Look, my husband just finished painting our house last night. Isn't it great? 8 a.m., this sunrise is really lasting. Now I know that was orange created by flames that were not more than just about a mile from my house at the time. I did check to see if I was evacuated. We saw some embers falling. I said, I'm not leaving the house till we pack a few things. We weren't officially evacuated until another hour later. So by the time we were officially evacuated, we were packed and ready to go. And then I said, and somewhere in the middle there around 8:30, it went from like this glowy to like really dark. Like it's 8:30 in the morning and I need the lights on in the house to try to figure out what I'm going to bring with me. So we packed for about 30 minutes. And then at one point I said, this is stupid. We need to go. And we finally checked. I didn't realize I should have been following the Butte County Sheriff Twitter feed to see that we were evacuated. So our official evacuation order came in at 8:41. Remember, initially I was ready to leave at 7 a.m. Then we decided to pack starting around 8. somewhere in the middle of packing, we're like, wait, this is getting crazy. We should probably leave. We still didn't leave. We still had to look at that evacuation order from the county sheriff. I think my husband first found it on our town Facebook page. And I know none of you are going to make this mistake because you're all here today and you're learning from all of these great professionals and experienced people that are giving you very solid advice. So I'm just telling this story to kind of help re-show this fallibility of perception and how your brain wants to grab on what it thinks or what it knows to be true. We started hearing thunder at this point, and those were actually propane tanks exploding. But my brain said, oh, that's weird. There's a storm going on. Maybe the fire is creating a local storm. We went to talk to our neighbors. We were ready to go. And I said, our neighbors were elderly. We had to check in on them first. So neighbor Joe is standing in his front yard. It's dark out. Embers are falling. We can smell the smoke at this point. And he says, they will never let the fire get past Pence. Now, at this point, we still imagine this fire was 10 miles to the northeast of us. And you can see here where Pence Road is and how the fire, that little block of yellow, is officially confirmed fire. Now, the maps you're seeing with the color behind this presentation are from a fire progression heat map that was published obviously many days after the fire. And actually, if anything, they're conservative estimates. You'll see when we left our driveway, our first flames were actually just a block and a half away from our house. So I can't go through the whole 3.5 hours. Our strategy with the fire was, it was north and east, so we would head south and west. The campfire was very unique, you guys. It had a lot of wind. Most fires won't go this way. But that wind picked the fire up, and as you know, it dropped it on top of town. So we were going away from the fire. I'll admit that my gas tank was very low. I had an almost empty gas tank when we started the evacuation. We decided to take back roads because we thought they wouldn't be crowded because Google Maps said there wasn't any traffic. And of course we hit traffic right away. So we went down this line here, you can see going south, again, trying to go south and east, but you can see that arrow on the far left side of the screen pointing to flames already over by Honey Run Road in the canyon there where the fire had just basically dropped on top of town over there. We got stuck on the small road behind our house and had to do a U-turn. Keeping in mind, I didn't know there was all that fire, but all those little flames you're seeing are actual spots of flames that we saw during our evacuation. And I was really grateful for the one piece of advice in my head this whole time during the evacuation, as I'm turning my car off and on to try to eke out the little bit of gas in the gas tank, was that Todd Lando had told us, if you're ever in a fire, stay in your car. And so we saw some people getting out and running, and it just was never a question in my mind. Todd says, stay in the car, stay in the car. We continued to go away from the fire. And at this point, we started realizing it was around us. We're seeing flames as we go. We drove past flames. We were fine. We continued to head south and east out of town. You can see as we approach Neal Road here, that ended up being one of the best of the 4 routes out of town. Even though you see that top really red spot in the top left corner, there's people in there and they all survived. They're in their cars, there's flames all around them. They were in traffic, but they stayed on Skyway and they got out of town just fine. The same thing happened for us. So we're driving down Neal Road here. We were stopped at this one spot for 45 minutes, just watching the flames creep closer to us. People were out of their cars at this point, stepping on embers. At one point, a group got a garden hose from a house 3 houses away and brought it closer so they could spray any flames that got near us. It was kind of an interesting community event where we all just were helping each other. It was surprisingly, we saw a lot of great sides of humanity. Saw some people picking up other people, cars breaking down, people helping push them out of the way, and other people jumping in. A lot of really great examples of how good humanity can be. So around 1:24, we said we're officially safe, and this was the view that we saw when we were safe. And I know I'm flying through this because I'm really trying to stay on schedule. My takeaways that I wanted to leave you all with are that your perception's fallible. Your brain categorizes based on what it knows. You can prepare your brain by thinking ahead. Even just listening to my talk right now may actually help you make a good decision later on down the road. Hopefully that never happens and you aren't in the same shoes I was in. First responders are amazing, but they are human. Keep your brain on. Leave early if it looks like you should leave, but also know your local roads and don't expect to know the right way. There's never going to be a right way or a wrong way. You'll just have to make a decision. in general, heading towards big roads is a good way to go. Stay in your car, and every fire is different. So I really don't think the Camp Fire will be repeated. The conditions were incredibly perfect for the firestorm that happened and the late morning and how close it was to town. I don't think we should live in a constant state of fear. And I know I'm saying that as you're surrounded by fires, but I think that if we think ahead and we're ready, we'll all be safe, and we might lose some possessions, and that is really hard. And I feel already for the people that have lost their houses this year, but hopefully that won't happen to you, and hopefully this talk has helped you prepare. Thank you.